Alright, so these are just some sample clips. This here, as you can see, is the different speeds of the panning motor, which I showed in a previous video. These clips are really nothing special, just to kind of give you an idea of how this works and a couple of different setups with different lenses and different things like that. So here next we have just a terrible time lapse just to show you that it does work. Here is some kind of panning and tilting and sliding, all three axes moving at the same time. This is on a 35mm lens. This is that inception roll, whatever. This is, again, just on a 35mm lens. It's really nothing special. This could be a lot cooler if you had like the Laowa 24mm probe lens, for example. This is on a super wide, I believe it was at 12mm lens, just a straight pan. This is again on 12mm, just kind of combining some different axes of motion to get a kind of weird shot there. And here you can see this is the 50mm but cropped in, so it's about the equivalent of like a 75mm. So a fairly longer telephoto lens, and the movement's really smooth here. This is again the same lens, and it was incredibly windy out here, and I think that the slider did well even with the wind. Not that you'd really expect it to struggle, but it was very windy. This is an example, as you can see, of a panorama. This is again with a 50mm lens stitched together, and you can see at 100% you get a lot of detail here because of that resolution. This is shot on the Sony A1. Here we have a matrix. This was 12 images stitched together. I just did this very quickly in an Affinity photo, and again, at 100% you can see you've got tons and tons of detail here. Very high resolution when you stitch these all together. Finally, just a couple of indoor shots. This is to show that kind of parallax type effect where you pan and slide at the same time. Really not an overly careful shot, but very easy to set up using the app to set my A and B points and just go between those. Again, here is actually using all three axes of motion, the sliding, the tilting, and the panning, and I was actually just tapping to focus, so again, not overly careful. Here's panning and tilting at the same time. So you can see that even with, this is again on the 50mm cropped in, and it works pretty good. Hopefully those helped you to get an idea of how it performs.